After it withdrew from the Iran deal, America today announced that it will restore sanctions on Tehran. These sanctions block any transaction with Iran that involves gold, dollar, banknotes, precious metals, aluminium, steel and coal. Import of Iranian carpets and food into America is also not going to be allowed now. The US State Department says the goal of these sanctions was to get Tehran to change its ways. A tougher round of sanctions is being planned for November that could ban Iran's crude oil business. India is closely watching these developments. Iran is one of India's trading partners and one of the largest suppliers of crude oil. So where is this going? Let's go straight to our correspondent, Kate Fisher, WION correspondent joining us from Washington, D.C. this evening. Good evening, Kate. This is just the beginning, we understand. Tougher sanctions targeting Iran's oil industry will follow. How far is Washington expected to go?
Well, they have been very clear today. The White House gave reporters a background briefing on all of this, and they made it clear that they would be fully implementing these sanctions. Their target, their aim is incredibly clear. They want to cripple the economy so much so that it forces Iran's leaders back to the negotiating table. They want to, they say, renegotiate a deal that they believe will be much more effective than the deal that was negotiated by the Obama administration. Their other goal, they say, is to stop Iran's malign activity. That's how they describe it. They say that they are bad actors and that they are causing lots of problems in the region and supporting wars such as President Assad in Syria. And they say that the other aim of these sanctions is to turn off the money, the financial supply to Iran so that they can no longer support what they describe as malign activity. So they say, yes, this is going to be very strongly implemented. And as you say, perhaps the sanctions that will have the biggest effect on the Iranian economy will come into effect in November, the second round of sanctions that are being reimposed, and they will affect the oil industry and Iran's central bank.
Iran's President Rouhani is set to respond to what the American president has set in motion today. The world has been watching warily. Is this Donald Trump's pressure-building tactic, considering that he's also, in the recent past, mooted the possibility of talks with Iran?
Yeah, President Trump has, the administration has said and made clear today that they do want to get back around the table with the Iranians, but that they will not do that until they stop that malign activity, and hence these sanctions. We also had a reaction from the foreign minister, the Iranian foreign minister, Jarif, who was in Asia for the Southeast Asian conference there, where he posed with several leaders, Asian leaders, for pictures on social media, saying, you know, I have great relationships with all these other countries. They want to see the previous Iran deal continued. It's only the US that doesn't want to see this. So there is certainly a war of words. You'll remember just a few weeks ago, those strongly worded tweets on social media, on Twitter, from both President Trump and the Iranian regime accusing each other. There is this discord here, but the Trump administration saying that their aim from these sanctions is twofold. Yes, to stop the financial flow to the Iranians, but secondly, to get them back to the negotiating table. They say that is what they want to do in the long run. They say they can negotiate a better deal than the one that was negotiated by the Obama administration and those other world powers.
2 teenagers were killed in Dhaka a week ago after a bus ploughed into them. It triggered protests like the world has never seen on road safety. Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, has been brought to a standstill. Under pressure, the government has increased the maximum punishment for offenders. Now they face 5 years in jail. But critics say it's too little too late. Some others suggest the protest is politically motivated, even foreign funded. Our next report explores who is protesting in Bangladesh, why are they so angry, and how brutally the authorities are responding.
This is how the streets of Dhaka have looked like for the past week. roads chock-a-block with protesting students. They've gathered at street corners with placards. They've raised slogans and demanded action. And they have only one demand: make the roads of Bangladesh safer for the public.
The elected representatives manage all their expenditures with our tax money. There is no benefit from elections if the representatives are ignorant about our life security and are reluctant to provide us due services. We will continue the movement if our demands are not met immediately.
These protests have virtually paralyzed Dhaka, and the teenagers have a concrete plan of action. Dressed in their school uniforms, they've erected checkpoints across the city. And much to the embarrassment of the authorities, these teens are forcing the police and ministers to observe traffic laws and enforce them. In return, they are being beaten up and attacked.
They have beaten us with bamboos by kicking us and in various other ways. It does not matter. It won't affect me, but we want safe roads. Whatever is happening to us, let it be. It's not a problem for us. But we want safe roads. We want that in the future no one is killed under the wheels of buses or vehicles. This is what we want.
But what prompted these unprecedented scenes? On July 29th, 2 students were killed and 12 others were injured when a privately run bus ploughed into a bus stop. The driver lost control of his vehicle while racing another bus to pick up passengers, a common occurrence in Bangladesh. Traffic laws are rarely observed in the densely populated country. Law enforcement agencies have also failed to ensure effective implementation of regulations. On an average, more than 4,000 people die in road accidents every single year in Bangladesh. Last year, over 7,000 people were killed in road accidents. And the incident 8 days ago seemed to be enough to mobilize the country's youth. Protests turned violent as police used force to disperse the protesting students. Some took to vandalism to prove their point. A few armed men attacked a car belonging to the United States Embassy in Dhaka. The American ambassador and her staff were unhurt, but the incident forced a stronger crackdown. A few offices of Bangladeshi political parties were also targeted.
They attacked party offices several times yesterday. Today 4 to 5 protesters tried to do the same. We prevented them at that time and asked them to go back, but they didn't. Then we had to fire tear gas shells to disperse them.
Even assurances from the Prime Minister herself didn't cut any ice. On Sunday, Sheikh Hasina urged the students to call off their protests and go home. She said, and I quote, "I request all guardians and parents to keep their children at home. Whatever they have done is enough." She also went a step further, hinting at the possibility of these protests being more than just spontaneous anger, hinting at the influence of a third party. Hasina warned that the protests could be sabotaged, putting the safety of demonstrators at risk. Hundreds have been injured in police crackdown in the last 1 week. But these students seem determined, prompting questions about the possibility of a political hand backing the demonstrations. Be that as it may, the sheer numbers of these sustained protests make one thing clear: that Bangladesh has had enough. Bureau Report, WION.
Here in India, of course, we sympathize with the situation in Bangladesh. Like its neighbour, India too struggles with road safety and has a poor record in the matter. The statistics are alarming, to say the least. In India, more than 150,000 people are killed every year in traffic accidents, and this is a conservative estimate. That's about 400 deaths a day, far higher than developed auto markets like the United States, which in 2016 logged about 40,000 deaths in a year. There is one death every 4 minutes in India due to a road accident, and these are the documented numbers we're talking about. India's national capital, New Delhi, tops the list of cities with the highest number of road accident deaths. Over the last few years, there's been a marginal decline in road accidents, but what's significant is that the number of deaths has increased. India infamously features among the top 10 countries with the most dangerous roads across the globe. India ranks at number 7. So why is this record so bad? Speeding is the biggest problem. Speeding vehicles caused more than 66% of all road accidents, 61% of deaths in 2016. The use of mobile phones while driving is another key factor. And it is a growing concern, with every second individual in India using a cell phone now. In 2016, more than 2,000 deaths were a result of a driver using a cell phone. Much like Bangladesh, road safety regulations are often overlooked in parts of India. Pothole-ridden roads are a common sight in most Indian cities. Every monsoon, deaths due to potholes make headlines. Trucks and lorries driving in the wrong direction, jumping the red light, aggression on the roads are what compound the problem. Disregard for traffic norms is not just among vehicle owners but also pedestrians. Children and bicycles are often seen spontaneously crossing the road, leading to massive car pileups. We see deaths in headlines in India. We see campaigns with celebrities, but this country hasn't seen a protest of this magnitude to demand road safety. Sometimes you don't need a protest. You need a unique way to make a point, a firm display of what you stand for. Hundreds of mothers in the Philippines are showing the way to the world, ridding breastfeeding of the stigma that society has attached to it. When people stare down at you, when they give you uncomfortable looks, women feel embarrassed to breastfeed in public. Not anymore. They're breaking the stigma. This is how.
Ask any young mother who has ever breastfed her baby in public. Most of them will say that they've got disapproving looks from strangers. It doesn't stop at that. Many new moms are even asked to leave a public place like a restaurant or store. To break the stigma around breastfeeding in public, women in Philippines have taken up a brave campaign. Over 2,200 mothers gathered in Manila and nursed their children in full public view.
We're here to remove the stigma that you cannot breastfeed outside of your home. So this is a very outward, very public act. And we want to show that breastfeeding is best for your babies.
Breastfeeding is the best for our babies.
It helps keep my baby from getting sick. I've seen it from my relatives how their children are healthy, like when you see their teeth and it's free. In a similar show of strength, thousands of mothers simultaneously breastfed their babies in Colombia. Mothers were seen caring for their children while listening to music, calling for an end to the stigma.
It seems to me that prohibiting breastfeeding in public is like attacking the rights of children because they are the ones who benefit the most.
We should not be ashamed of breastfeed our babies in public because it is an act of love.
Even though public breastfeeding is totally natural, the stigma around it is difficult to shake off. Luckily, plenty of female celebrities are speaking out and working to normalize public breastfeeding. Celebrity mothers are among those encouraging others to take up the practice by sharing their pictures that show them nursing on social media. But how much longer till the world completely accepts public breastfeeding? Bureau Report, WION.